Did that work? Hey, there I am. Let's go back to Mark, the 5th chapter. Mark 5. Hi. Mark, the 5th chapter. It's bound to be one of these. Mark 5. There we go. I'm going to start in the 21st verse again, just so we can read through it a little bit. I'm going to call it the abridged version of all of this. It's actually in Matthew 9:18. It's very abridged. It's like 3 verses, where this is a much number. Well, it's probably like 5 verses, where this is a much more in-depth account. If you wanted to read Matthew's account, that's where you could find it, is in Matthew 9:18. So here we go. Mark 5:21st verse. When Jesus passed over again by ship unto the other side, much people gathered unto him. He was nigh unto the sea. And behold, there cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet, and besought him greatly, saying, My little daughter lieth at the point of death. I pray thee, come and lay thy hands on her, that she may be healed, and she shall live. And Jesus went with him, and much people followed him, and thronged him. And a certain woman, which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse, when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind, and touched his garment. We wanted to focus on today from this was actually that verse, because I didn't realize this until this morning. It says that I assumed she heard Jesus preach. Anybody else assume that? I assumed it. It's all right if you did. It didn't say that. It says when she heard of Jesus. Now that's different, right? Because she heard of him. So number 4 is your words can cause faith or fear in others. So what you're saying, what you're ministering to them, are you bringing faith? Because we're supposed to be ministering faith. We're not trying to make people afraid. We should be helping them in their faith and believe. Because we're believers. We're not doubters. We are believers. And how could you only reap faith or belief if you sow doubt? See, we're not trying to sow doubt in somebody's mind. We want to sow faith. See? So when she had heard of Jesus, it hit me. When she heard of Jesus, she didn't actually hear him preach yet. She heard of him. How'd she hear of him? Somebody. What about you? What are you talking about? What God's doing in your life? Are you ministering that good deed which God's done for you in your life? Are you ministering that to other people? I bet you are. It's just a question, food for thought. I'm not looking for hands raised in embarrassment. Take the mic, say it. Right? Not trying to put you on the spot. But see, when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind, for she said, If I may but touch his clothes, I shall be whole. When she heard of Jesus, so faith came, because she heard, that's how faith comes. When she heard of Jesus, she came in the press behind and touched his garment, for she said, If I may but touch his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. One of the things I didn't realize until I was researching this a little bit more, and I remember 2 weeks ago or last week that I mentioned that being in public for this woman was breaking of Jewish law. What I didn't realize, though, is that by her touching Jesus, he was in transgression now for that. Isn't that something? So not only is she putting herself at risk, and then I thought about this, not just touching him, well, she was crawling down to get to his feet. What about all those other people she touched? Right? And what an instance that would be. Well, I guess she had nothing else to lose, did she? She was 12 years sick, had spent all that she had on all these crazy treatments, and then nothing got better, but from the treatments and time, it gotten worse. So this is her last-ditch effort. What could I do to get better? So through faith, hearing of what Jesus had done, she decided, if I could just get close enough to touch him, I shall be healed and made whole of my plague. And bam, and immediately it says she was healed and whole. Isn't that wonderful? It didn't take forever. It was immediate. I'm instantly made whole. Let's keep reading. And Jesus immediately, 30th verse, knowing in himself that virtue or power, dunamis, had gone out of him, he turned about in the press, and he asked, Who touched my clothes? And his disciples said unto him, You seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, Who touched me? And he looked round about to see her that had done this thing. And the woman, fearing and trembling, different kind of fear here, she was trying to figure out what to say. What do I do here? I just broke the law badly, by the way. Fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. I'm going to say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God, right? She laid out everything, and here's Jairus waiting on Jesus to come before his daughter dies, and she said the whole truth. How much truth? The truth, all the truth, 12 years worth of it. I mean, man, 12 years, that's a long time. Told him all the truth. And he said unto her, Daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace, and be whole of your plague. 35th verse. And while he yet spake, there came one of the ruler of the synagogue's house, certain, which said, Your daughter is dead. Why troublest? That word troublest means to annoy thou thy master any further. Why troublest thou the master any further? 36th verse. And as soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, Be not afraid, only believe. Be not afraid, only believe. Here's a hot tip from Jesus in the 36th verse out of the Amplified. He said, overhearing, but ignoring. Isn't that wonderful? He overheard, but he decided to ignore it. See, there's some things that we get told or taught or said to us by sometimes well-meaning people, sometimes not so well-meaning people. You have both, don't you? And sometimes you could overhear and ignore. Just know which one you need to do, right? Because sometimes we know that we should pay attention and we don't because it's uncomfortable. I don't want to do that. It's not me. But Jesus here overheard the fear and chose to ignore it and minister faith to Jairus. What did he say? Be not afraid, only believe. Be not afraid, only believe. 37th verse. And he suffered no man to follow him, save Peter and James and John, the brother of James. And he came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and seeth the tumult, and them that wept and wailed greatly. And when he was come in, he saith unto them, Why make you this ado and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth. He's calling those things that be not as though they were. 40th verse. And they laughed him to scorn, which is why he brought Peter and James and John, the sons of thunder. Just telling you right now, that's why he brought those three. Right? All right. They laughed him to scorn, but when he had put them all out, Peter, James, John, get these guys out of here. He taketh the father and the mother of the damsel and them that were with him, and he entered in where the damsel was lying, and he took her by the hand and said, Talitha cumi, which is being interpreted, Damsel, I say unto thee, arise. And straightway the damsel arose and walked, and she was of the age of 12, and they were astonished with a great astonishment. And he charged them straitly that no man should know it, and commanded that something that be given to her to eat. A few things I want to highlight through this, because it's very in-depth, kind of like Pastor's letter when he said read through it a few times. And I haven't read it yet. I'm not trying to say that I have, because I just got it this morning. Sometimes you have to read through things several times. I mean, there's more and more in this that we haven't even touched on yet. A few things that I thought about was this, that how many people were there pressing upon Jesus, and yet we only see two people? We see two people, Jairus and this woman with the issue of blood, that actually received something from God. What was the intent and purpose of the heart of all the masses? You think it was a club, man? Disco ball? I don't know. It's a party going on? What was it? Let's see, only two people received from it. At least two people that we have documentation of and know about. But they're all pressing in. So what was the purpose? Why was everyone else there? I've always said this about church. When you're coming, you come with a purpose. I know what I'm doing here. I'm going to hear the word. I'm going to receive the word. And I'm going to minister to somebody else in the church too. Because it's not just about when Peter and I get up here and minister the word. You guys have time together, and you can minister to somebody in a way that I can't, and in a way that Peter can't. I minister in a different way than Pete, and Pete certainly ministers in a different way than I can. I'm not a good teacher. I don't teach. It's not my jam, man. It's not my thing. I've tried. It's not good. I don't like it. It's not a knock on me. I'm just not a good teacher. I'm a preacher. But what happened there? All these people and 2 people. See? But our church, over the last few weeks, everyone had a testimony to share. Isn't that wonderful? Everyone in here has some kind of a wonderful testimony to share of the great things God's doing. I'm going to say I would be surprised if there was other churches where everyone in the congregation could get up and give some kind of a wonderful testimony on a regular basis. Not just every once in a while, on a regular basis. The other thing here is that these 2 people, they didn't let fear stop them from approaching God. See, this woman had a major issue of blood. She wasn't getting better. She didn't have anything else to do. She could have stopped and been afraid instead of approaching God, going to God about it. And that's always what the devil tries to do, is keep you out of God. He tries to keep you from going to our Father who loves us. So he loves you and he's good to you. Why wouldn't you want to go to him? So number 5 was that we never let fear keep us from approaching God. See, Peter talked a little bit about the comforter, the advocate, the helper, the intercessor, the standby, the strengthener, the buckler. Out of the Amplified there, that's what he is. He's our comforter, our counselor, our strengthener, our buckler, our intercessor, our advocate. That's what he does for us. So God is always ready to help us no matter how impossible the situation may seem. God's always ready to help us no matter how impossible the situations may seem. That's what he did for Jairus, and that's what he did for the woman of the issue of blood. So what's stopping you from receiving God's help in any situation that you're facing right now? The answer is really nothing except whatever you've allowed to keep you from seeking him over it. See? It's really the truth. Whatever it is that you've allowed yourself to stay away from him because of da-da-da-da-da. I'm going to go with keeping away from him because of the blah, 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 blah. It's Pastor Janet's thing. I stole it from her. One of those Wednesday or one of those Women of God meetings, once Peter posts them from some time ago, it'll get posted, and then I'll give her credit later on. I can't remember which one it was. Because that's what he does. He's just blah, 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 blah. And she might correct me afterwards. It's not the blah, blah, blah. It's the blah, blah, blah. Because that's what he does. It's a lot of blah, blah, blah. Right? It's the truth. It's what he says. It's blah, 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 because what he says can't come to pass unless you allow it to come to pass. See? His greatest power is deception. And what's the deception? He gets you to bring his will to pass in your life. What's his will? Steal, kill, and destroy. The thief only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Jesus said, I am come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. The Amplified, it actually says that you would have life to the full till it overflows. What's the overflow for? Everyone else. Anyone else that you come into contact with. So what? So when there's a crowd in this church, that there's more than 2 people that have a testimony. One got healed and the other one's daughter got raised from the dead. Amen?